So when people hear about a 50 g protein diet, the first thought that pops into their minds is usually, oh, you must be drinking 5 shakes a day, right? But the truth is, no powders, no scoops, no magic drinks, just real food. And here's the deal, it absolutely changed the way I look, perform, and even how I feel every single day. Let me walk you through why. Protein isn't just this magic muscle-building nutrient that bodybuilders worship. It's literally the backbone of recovery, satiety, and performance. And when you consistently get enough of it, especially from whole food sources, the results stack up in ways that surprise even the most skeptical person. The first thing I noticed wasn't even bigger muscles, it was energy. No crashes, no mid-afternoon I could nap on the floor feelings. That stable blood sugar and steady amino acid flow made my body just hum along at a higher level. It's like your system finally has the raw materials it's been begging for, and suddenly it rewards you with more focus, better workouts, and even improved mood. Now, here's the fun part. People assume 50 grams of protein from real food is impossible, but it's not. Eggs, chicken, beef, fish, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, beans, lentils. When you start actually structuring your meals around protein, you realize it's way more doable than you thought. And every meal becomes this mini opportunity to push your body closer to looking and feeling like a well-oiled machine. But let's be real, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. At first, it felt like work. Because if you're used to eating random meals with little to no protein, 50 grams sounds like climbing Everest. The difference is, every time you get that protein in, you're building armor, you're repairing tissue, you're supporting your metabolism, and you're setting up your future self for success. And once it clicks, it's no longer a chore, it becomes a lifestyle. And here's the kicker, I wasn't starving myself, I wasn't cutting out carbs or fats, and I wasn't following some magic elimination diet. I just centered my nutrition around a number of 50 grams of protein, and the fat started dropping, the muscle started staying, and recovery went through the roof. That's the kind of transformation that makes you stick with it, because you see the return on investment every single day. So if you're wondering if it's worth it, if aiming for a real food, a 50 g protein diet is just hype, let me tell you, it is worth every ounce of chicken breast, every bite of salmon, every spoon of Greek yogurt, because it's not just about looking better in the mirror, it's about changing how your body works for you in ways you can feel in your bones, in your brain, and in your workouts. When most people talk about protein, they think muscles, they think gym bros pounding chicken breast, or the classic bodybuilding stereotype with a cooler full of Tupperware meals. And sure, protein is the most anabolic nutrient, no question, but let's set that aside for a second and talk about something you might not expect. Energy and focus. Because here's the truth, hitting 150 grams of protein from real food didn't just change how I looked, it completely changed how I felt. And that's not hype, it's just physiology at work. Think about what most people eat for breakfast. A muffin, maybe some toast with jam, or a couple of pancakes drowned in syrup. Basically a sugar bomb. What happens? You get that instant high, your blood sugar shoots up, you feel like Superman for about 30 minutes, and then bam, you crash. You're dragging, you're hungry again, and you're reaching for another coffee by 10 a.m. That roller coaster is brutal for energy and focus. Now contrast that with a breakfast built around protein, eggs, cottage cheese, maybe some Greek yogurt with fruit. What happens then? Instead of a quick spike and a hard crash, you get this slow, steady release of energy. Your body actually has something substantial to work with, something to keep you feeling alert and focused. That's because protein slows digestion, it stabilizes blood sugar, and it provides a steady stream of amino acids that your body uses not just to repair muscle, but to keep your brain sharp. You know those neurotransmitters that help you concentrate, that keep your mood balanced, that let you actually think clearly in a meeting or during a tough workout? They're literally made out of amino acids from protein. So when you're chronically under-eating protein, you're not just shortchanging your muscles, you're shortchanging your brain. Now let's zoom in on the steady energy part. Imagine your body is like a car. If you put in nothing but cheap fuel, tons of sugar with no real structure, yeah, the car runs, but the engine sputters, the mileage sucks, and it breaks down more often. Put in the right fuel, balanced meals, centered around protein, and suddenly the car runs smoother, more efficiently, and can actually go the distance without choking halfway through. That's exactly what happens in your body. When you hit that 150 drain target every day, it's like you're finally giving your system the materials it needs to keep you humming along without that stop-start, up-down nonsense. And let's not forget hunger. One of the biggest killers of focus is distraction. And nothing is more distracting than being hungry. Protein is the most satiating nutrient out there. You eat a high-protein meal and you stay full longer. That means fewer cravings, oh, let me just grab a snack real quick, breaks, and way more consistency in your day. And that fullness doesn't just help with willpower. It literally frees up mental energy. You're not constantly thinking about food, so your brain can actually focus on the task in front of you. Here's another underrated piece: mood. Ever notice how cranky you get when you're hungry? Yeah, that's blood sugar fluctuations messing with you. But steady protein intake, it's like emotional insulation. You don't get those wild swings from I feel amazing to I hate everyone and everything. Instead, you're calmer, more resilient, and more even-keeled throughout the day. It sounds small, but when you add that up over weeks and months, it completely changes how you experience life. Let me give you an example. Before I locked in on a 50 gram of protein from Whole Foods, I used to get these nasty mid-afternoon slumps. I'd be sitting at my desk or trying to program a workout, and suddenly I'd feel like someone unplugged me from the wall. Zero energy, zero focus, and the only thing I could think about was caffeine or sugar to get me through. Once I started structuring my meals with protein as the centerpiece, those slumps disappeared. And it wasn't subtle. I could literally feel the difference in my productivity. It was like gaining 2 extra hours in the day where my brain was actually firing on all cylinders. And listen, it doesn't happen overnight. The first week or two, it just feels like you're eating a lot of chicken and eggs. But after a month, you start noticing that you don't crash after lunch, you're less anxious, your workouts feel smoother, and your sleep even improves. Because protein intake influences recovery, hormones, neurotransmitters, blood sugar, basically all the systems that regulate energy and focus. Is not magic, it's biology. The funny thing is, people chase energy in all the wrong places. They down energy drinks, they overdose on coffee, they go for crazy supplements, but they never address the foundation, nutrition. And the foundation of nutrition, if you want stable energy and focus, is protein. Without it, you're basically trying to build a skyscraper on sand. With it, everything else, your workouts, your mood, your productivity suddenly has a solid base to stand on. So yeah, the 50G protein diet changed my body, no doubt. But the real game changer, it gave me the kind of consistent, sustainable energy and mental focus that makes everything else in life easier. Work feels easier, training feels easier. Even just being present with friends and family feels better because you're not constantly battling fatigue or brain fog, and that, more than the muscle gains or fat loss, is what really makes it life-changing. When most people think about getting stronger or building muscle, they obsess over training programs, how many sets, what rep range, which exercises are best. And don't get me wrong, training is the driver of muscle growth. You don't train, you don't grow. But here's the kicker. Training is just the spark. Recovery, what happens after you train, is where the actual growth takes place. And protein, especially in the right amounts and from real food, is the cornerstone of that recovery process. So let's unpack this. When you go to the gym and hit a tough session, whether it's squats, presses, rows, or curls, you're not actually building muscle in that moment. You're creating tiny disruptions in your muscle fibers, little micro tears that signal to your body, hey, we need to adapt. We need to come back stronger, bigger, more resilient. But for that adaptation to happen, your body needs raw materials. And those raw materials are amino acids, the building blocks of protein. If you train hard and then undereat protein, it's like giving your construction crew a pile of bricks but no cement. Nothing gets built. Now, when you consistently hit around 50 grams of protein per day from real food, what you're doing is ensuring that your body has a steady supply of those raw materials. You're basically telling your muscles, don't worry, I've got you covered. So instead of just repairing the damage from training, your body can actually supercompensate. It can add new muscle fibers, increase cross-sectional area, and make you stronger for the next time you train. That's the growth process. Without enough protein, it's like spinning your wheels, train, break down, fail to rebuild fully, repeat. With enough protein, it's progress stacked on progress. Another huge piece here is recovery speed. Most people underestimate just how much recovery dictates performance. You know that sore, sluggish feeling you get a day or two after a brutal workout? That's your body still patching up those muscle fibers. If your protein intake is low, that soreness lingers. You're still hobbling up the stairs 3 days later. But with adequate protein, recovery is faster. You walk into your next workout session fresher, stronger, and ready to actually push the weights again. And when you can consistently train hard, with good recovery between sessions, that's when muscle growth compounds. And let's not forget the immune system. Training is stress, good stress, but stress nonetheless. Without proper recovery, your immune function dips. Your risk of overtraining or getting sick goes up, and suddenly you're missing workouts. Guess what supports immune function? Protein. Specifically, amino acids like glutamine, which help fuel immune cells. So again, protein isn't just about repairing muscle, it's about keeping your whole system resilient so you can keep showing up. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, why 150 grams? Isn't that a lot? Honestly, it's not as much as people think. For someone training seriously and trying to build or maintain muscle, it's a pretty reasonable sweet spot. And the beauty of getting it from whole foods instead of powders is that you're not just getting protein, you're getting all the micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals that come with those foods. Chicken breast gives you B vitamins, salmon gives you omega-3s, eggs give you choline, Greek yogurt gives you calcium and probiotics. All of those support recovery and health in ways that a scoop of powder never could. Here's a story. Early on, I thought I was eating enough protein. I'd have some meat at dinner, maybe a few eggs here and there, and I figured that was plenty. But when I actually tracked it, I was barely hitting 70 or 80 grams a day. My training felt fine for a while, but I was constantly sore, progress was slow, and I never quite felt recovered. Once I made the shift to aiming for 150 grams, again, all real food, the difference was night and day. Another thing worth mentioning, protein timing. People get obsessed with it. Do I need protein immediately after training? Do I need 6 meals a day? Honestly, the most important factor is total daily intake. Hitting that 150 G range is the priority, but spreading it across 3 to 5 meals can be helpful because your body can only use so much protein for muscle protein synthesis at once. Think of it like topping off a glass of water multiple times a day instead of trying to dump a gallon in one go. It's more efficient and it keeps your recovery machinery running around the clock. So let's break down why this works. First, protein is incredibly satiating. Out of all the macronutrients, carbs, fats, and protein is the one that tells your brain, hey, we're good, no need to keep eating. It triggers satiety hormones in a way carbs and fats just don't. So when you sit down to a meal that's centered on chicken, eggs, fish, beef, or lentils, you walk away feeling satisfied. Contrast that with a bag of chips or a cookie. You can inhale hundreds of calories and still feel hungry 30 minutes later. That's why diets built on junk never last. With protein, you naturally eat fewer calories without feeling deprived. Second, protein has a high thermic effect of food, TF. That's just a fancy way of saying your body actually burns more calories digesting protein compared to carbs or fats. About 20–30% of the calories from protein are spent just to break it down and metabolize it. So if you eat 150 grams of protein, you're literally burning extra calories in the digestion process. That's free calorie burn just for chewing on steak instead of donuts. Pretty great deal, right? But here's the biggest piece, muscle preservation. When you're in a calorie deficit, your body is looking for energy. If you're not careful, it will pull that energy, not just from fat, but from muscle. And losing muscle while dieting is a disaster. It tanks your metabolism, it makes you weaker, and it leaves you looking skinny fat instead of lean and muscular. Protein intake solves that. By feeding your body a steady stream of amino acids, you protect your muscle tissue. You tell your body, hey, burn the fat, not the muscle. That's why high-protein diets consistently outperform low-protein ones in fat loss studies. Not because they melt fat directly, but because they help you hang on to muscle while the fat comes off. The result is a leaner, stronger, more athletic-looking body instead of just a smaller version of your old self. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Is 150 grams of protein too much? No. For most active adults, especially those training hard, it's actually right in the sweet spot. And no, it's not going to wreck your kidneys unless you already have severe kidney disease. That's an old myth that refuses to die. What it will do is keep you full, keep your metabolism higher, and make dieting feel a whole lot more sustainable. Here's a personal story to illustrate this. Back when I first tried dieting seriously, I made the classic rookie mistake. I cut calories by eating smaller portions of whatever I was already eating. A little less rice, a little less bread, a little less everything. The problem, I ended up with meals that were basically just carbs and fats. Barely any protein. I was starving all the time. I felt weak in the gym. And Yeah, I lost some weight, but a lot of it was muscle. The mirror didn't show a leaner version of me. It showed a smaller, softer version. That was discouraging as hell. Fast forward to when I got serious about protein. I set that 150-gram target and built every meal around hitting it. Suddenly, dieting wasn't this painful grind anymore. I'd eat a breakfast of eggs and Greek yogurt, a lunch of chicken and veggies, a dinner with salmon and rice, and a couple snacks like cottage cheese or beef jerky. Not only did I feel satisfied, I had energy in the gym, and the fat started coming off without me feeling like I was starving. And the kicker? I was getting leaner while holding on to muscle, so I actually looked better with every pound I lost. That was the game changer. Another important point, protein helps with adherence. Dieting is hard, not because losing fat is impossible, but because most people can't stick to the plan. Hunger wears them down. Cravings break their willpower. But when your meals are protein-rich, you've got satiety on your side. It's not a miracle cure. You'll still get hungry at times, but it's manageable. And that's the difference between quitting after 2 weeks and seeing results after 12 weeks. Sustainability wins every time. It's also worth noting that high-protein meals crowd out less nutritious foods. If you sit down to 8 ounces of chicken breast with some vegetables and rice, you're full. You don't even have the room or the desire for half a pizza afterward. Protein sets the tone of the meal and helps you regulate portions of everything else. You don't have to eliminate carbs or fats. You just prioritize protein first, and the rest falls into place. So here's the bottom line. Losing fat doesn't mean starving. It doesn't mean cutting out every food you enjoy. And it definitely doesn't mean sacrificing muscle along the way. The secret isn't eating less of everything. It's eating enough of the right thing. And the right thing, 9 times out of 10, is protein. Hitting 150 grams per day from whole foods isn't just doable. It's transformative. It makes fat loss smoother, more sustainable, and far less miserable. What makes hitting 150 grams of protein from whole foods so powerful isn't just the fat loss or the muscle growth or even the stable energy. It's that it actually fits into your life. It's sustainable. It doesn't ask you to starve, to give up entire food groups, or to live in fear of carbs or fats. Instead, it reframes the way you look at food. Protein becomes the anchor of every meal. That's not a restriction, it's a structure. And once you build that structure, everything else falls into place. Let's talk about what lifestyle over restriction really means. Restriction is saying, I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I'll just suffer through it until I hit my goal. Lifestyle is saying, here's how I build my meals to support my goals. But I still enjoy food. I still go out with friends. I still live my life. When protein is the foundation, you have flexibility. You can still have carbs. You can still have fats. You can even enjoy dessert. The only rule is protein first. Hit your 150 grams, and everything else is adjustable. That's why it lasts. It doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like a plan. Think about it this way. If you're trying to build a strong house, you don't obsess over what color the curtains are before you lay down the foundation. Protein is the foundation. Once it's in place, you can decorate however you want, add rice, potatoes, pasta, avocado, olive oil, fruit, whatever fits your taste and your goals. But if you skip the foundation and just focus on the decorations, the whole thing collapses. That's exactly why so many diets fail. Now let's be real. At first, eating 50 grams of protein from real food can feel like work. If you're used to meals that barely scrape 10-15 grams of protein, suddenly aiming for 30-40 grams per meal sounds like a lot. You'll feel stuffed at times, and you'll have to actually plan ahead. But here's the thing. Like any good habit, it gets easier. After a few weeks, it doesn't feel like effort, it just feels normal. Eggs and yogurt in the morning, chicken or fish at lunch, beef or salmon at dinner, maybe some cottage cheese or beans as snacks. Before long, you're not dieting, you're just eating the way that supports your body best. And the beauty of building a lifestyle around protein is that it's adaptable. Traveling, you can find lean meats, eggs, or dairy almost anywhere. Eating out, order the entree with the biggest protein portion and build around it. Busy day, grab a quick protein-rich snack like Greek yogurt, beef jerky, or boiled eggs. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. You don't have to hit 150 grams on the dot every single day for the rest of your life. You just have to make protein the default choice, the non-negotiable baseline. Over months and years, that's what builds the body you want. Here's a personal anecdote. When I used to diet on restrictive plans, low carb, low fat, even some intermittent fasting phases, it always felt like a countdown clock. I was constantly looking forward to the day it would end. That mindset made me impatient, irritable, and ultimately inconsistent. But once I reframed it, once I said, okay, my only job is to build meals around protein and let everything else flow from there. Suddenly, it wasn't a diet anymore. It was just how I ate. I could keep doing it on vacation during holidays, even when life got stressful. And that's when the results actually stuck. Because if you can't stick with it, it doesn't matter how effective it is on paper. And let's address the psychological benefit here, because it's huge. Restrictive diets make you feel like a failure every time you slip. You eat a cookie, you blow your plan, and you spiral into guilt. But with a protein-centered lifestyle, a cookie is just a cookie. You hit your protein for the day, you're still on track. That cookie didn't derail anything because the core of your plan is intact. That mental flexibility is the difference between a sustainable approach and an unsustainable one. It frees you from the all-or-nothing trap. And here's the real secret. Once eating protein-rich meals becomes your norm, you actually crave it. Your body starts to feel the difference. You recognize how much better you feel after a high-protein breakfast compared to a sugary one. You notice how much more satisfied you are after a steak dinner compared to a pasta-only dinner. Your body learns, and your habits reinforce themselves. That's when you know you're not dieting, you're living. At the end of the day, a 50-gram protein diet isn't about chicken breast and discipline. It's about building a way of eating that supports your goals without sucking the joy out of your life. It's about creating a foundation that makes fat loss, muscle growth, and energy sustainable, not just for 6 weeks, but for the next 6 years. Restriction is temporary. Lifestyle is permanent. And when you center that lifestyle around protein from real foods, you don't just change your diet, you change your entire relationship with food, with training, and with your body.